today we have a special guest that's going to be joining us on the show. Mel Giannone is a real estate broker. He's a real estate investor. He's a real estate advisor, and he's been in the industry for well over 30 years. So he brings a lot of experience to the table. And I've known Mel now for a little while, and tell me, like, he's just such a great guy that is so knowledgeable, and he's so approachable for everyone. So we're going to bring him on in just a moment. Welcome, Mel. It's great to have you here. It is so nice to connect again.
Thanks, Denise. I've been looking forward to this. We're going to have a great time today.
I'm sure we will. So, you know what? I've just done a little tiny introduction of you, but why don't you tell everyone who Mel Giannone, sorry, I've got to say this right. Giannone, what does he do?
Sure. My name is Mel Giannone. I'm a commercial real estate broker. I've been in the commercial real estate game for over 30 years now. I have my own brokerage. So I started off my career with one of the big four conglomerates in commercial real estate, did that for over a decade before founding my own company, Paramount Real Estate Properties, back in 2005. So predominantly, the brokerage side of my business was taking care of tenants that occupy space or individuals that want to invest in real estate, commercial real estate. I do that throughout the greater Toronto area. And of course, now branching out into syndication. So where we look through to acquire properties, invest with business partners for decent returns, and then helping them achieve financial freedom through commercial real estate. So other than that, I'm a lot like most people, son of immigrant parents. My parents immigrated from Italy a long time ago, settled here. I got married, so I'm a loving husband, about 25 years now. And I've got 3 boys of my own, so I'm a very caring father. So I'm hopefully you can relate to who I am. I'm nothing special. I'm just like everyone else, but I'm competitive, so I do a lot of things. And I try to expand as I'm getting into my older years. I'm 56 now, so I like to try new things like this webinar. So this is cool.
That's awesome. You know, like I said, we've known each other for a little while, but you said you came from immigrant parents, basically, who immigrated. Did you grow up in the Toronto area?
Yeah, I did. I grew up in Midtown Toronto, an area that is referred to as Corso, Italia. So that would be north of College Street. So most people look at College Street as the place where Little Italy exists, but I was a little further. As more Italians started migrating north, I was in Corso, Italia. And a lot of the Italian immigrants that came over in the 60s ended up residing there. So my whole neighborhood was practically Italian. My parents coming over, trying to do what everybody else did, just get their foot in the door. They started off in Spadina, which was Spadina area was the garment district back then. And they were working in the factories there in clothing. So back in a little short diversion, but back in Italy, when you didn't finish school, your parents were pretty much promoting you to take on a trade. And as they were kids, and if they didn't want to or couldn't afford to finish school, they would take on a trade. And one of the things that they did was learn how to, become a tailor or cut clothes or patterns and put things together and make clothes. So that was a natural thing for them to do, is find a job on this side of the ocean. And they were working in the garment district a long time. So so long that by the time I was like 15, 16, I got my first job there in Spadina, on Spadina Avenue. It was pretty crazy. So it taught me a lot of things. So just being around them, I knew that they were working 6 days out of the 7 days a week. It would be like 5 days, Monday to Friday, and then a half day on Saturday. And I would go in with them sometimes just to keep them company. They couldn't afford a babysitter, so I was there. And so when I was in that environment, just to give you some context, like these are not the buildings that you see on Spadina today. These were rickety old buildings where the floor was separated by the wall by about a half inch. And in that groove, you'd see like little mice running around. My first job was actually just handling garment rolls. And because they're not like facilities today where you have all these sort of dock level doors that transport trucks backed up, this was in a back alley where the trucks, those cube vans, had to come in at an angle. And there was this 15-foot gap where we would have to hand bomb clothes and then take a wooden rickety old elevator going up. Like, we always felt like our life was in our hands every time we went up, and we just kept piling more rolls. So the environment in which they worked in was dangerous. It was no air conditioning. And I knew right then and there, I said, man, this is a hard life, 6 days a week trying to take care of one kid. Trading time for dollars, as they say, it's just not the way you want to do things. So my parents actually eventually moved on to start their own business, and they kind of fostered that entrepreneurial spirit in me. But as a benchmark, as a contrast to where they came from, it inspired me to seek beyond just being an employee for someone else. And I think that's where I landed here, doing my own thing.
So that's kind of what shaped you then, as your parents went from being employees to did they own their own business? That's what you said.
Yeah.
Did they own their own business? And then that kind of shaped you, I guess, to where you are today. So right. How does that kind of, what took you from that, what you were exposed to real estate? How did that happen for you?
Well, the first thing I noticed right off the bat, so when my parents decided to go into business for themselves, as exhausting as it might be to run a business, we just came from a place where you're working 6 days a week. Well, now you're working 7 days a week when you own your own business. But the noticeable difference is that they had pride, right? Pride and ownership. And they were much happier, even though they were working harder and there wasn't as much certainty. They weren't sure they were going to make the same amount of money that they were making back in the garment district. But there was much more happiness there, much more harmony there. And soon their business grew. So they had a little cafe. And then from there, the customers would sort of support them. And this is where the opportunities came in, because they weren't working for someone else on a floor dealing with fabrics. They were actually out communicating with people, networking with people. Opportunities started coming to them. And soon enough, our lifestyle got better. Like our standard of living got better because of the connections that they made through their business. And I'll go one step further. I'm probably in real estate because of, I won't say this is a positive influence per se, but because of an influence that was on me through their landlord. So what I noticed that, they had this business and they would have to pay rent because they didn't own the property that they were in, but the landlord would come once a week or once a month to pick up a check, right? So they pick up the rent check. And I thought, like, wow, look how much respect this gentleman is coming through the front door. My parents would make him a coffee. How's everything going? How's your family? And I thought, well, who are they kissing up to? Like, who is this guy, right? So, of course, at the end, here's the envelope, here's the check. Thank you very much. We'll see you next month. Everything is good here. Don't worry. We're the custodians of your property. We realize the opportunity you've given us. I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? So over time, I got to know this man, and so his background was in real estate construction. He was just a contractor, grew into real estate development, started doing housing and residential, and then eventually he got tired of having 100 staff and just decided to invest in a few properties, enough so that it would replace his retirement income. And I thought, man, so this guy shows up, he gets treated like a king, so much respect, lives a good life because it was a well-balanced life in contrast to my parents who were just working 6-7 days a week. And really all he had to do is come up and pick up a check and then go figure out a place to put that check, investing it in properties passively, earning an income and living a balanced life, right? So that's all that my parents ever wanted, but they hadn't gotten there. So I figured, you know what, if I go to university, go to schooling, I don't know what could be better than this. I really got to figure out this real estate thing. And as I grew older and met with more customers that were of Italian background. So how it works is everybody gets into the construction business, right? They're bricklayers, asphalt guys that build sidewalks. And what I noticed is that a lot of these guys could be, making widgets, but eventually they all went into real estate to make their fortune. And I thought, okay, so there's a path here. There's a path. You start off doing something, but then eventually you put your money in real estate, and that's where you really create your wealth. So putting all these pieces of the puzzle together, I knew that I wanted to be entrepreneurial like my parents. I wanted to have more control over my own destiny, and that's what being an entrepreneur was all about. I didn't mind taking the risks. I knew I was a grinder, that I would work hard. And some of the examples, whether those were customers or whether it was that landlord that said, look, yeah, we put our money into real estate. I now rent out a couple of apartments, or we have this building down the street. We got businesses in it, and this is great. It makes more money than my actual business, and it's a great way to retire. And I thought, all right, I got to learn how to do the development thing. I got to learn how to do the real estate landlording thing. So I think that had a lot of influence over to where I am today.
Yeah. It's interesting because you used the word a while ago about sort of this landlord investing passively. Mm-hmm. And even for our viewers, I mean, people think that real estate is easy and you don't have to do anything, but it kind of, as you described, that there's a lot of roles basically that one has to play when you're dealing with real estate. Now, they're guaranteed. I mean, there are some people that will invest passively, but there's sometimes a more active role, right, that we all take into real estate. And again, you will have to wear many different hats. So how many hats, like what are some of those hats that you're wearing today in terms of the real estate brokerage that you have?
Well, look, with every business, there are 5 hats that you wear, right? So I would say, sales is one of them. Marketing is another. Finance, managing finance, right, is another. Mm-hmm. Operations and administration, and eventually personnel or HR, because you're going to hire more people to grow. So you're wearing 5 hats at least all the time. And as you grow and scale, you hope that you have, systems and processes in place that you can delegate some of those things to other people. And so that all you really do is become the connector for your sales, or, generate revenue for your business. And then you can let go of all the other stuff that maybe you're not as good at or frustrated with, and then have those people in those roles follow your vision and under that sort of hierarchy, while you just make it rain money, hopefully, right? You're trying to get money to come in through the front door, and you're worried about it going out the back door. So you want to make sure you got the right people playing defense and making sure you're not overspending so that you're staying in business.
So I know we talk about, like you do have a brokerage, but the one thing I know about you, which is a little bit of what we kind of do as well, let's say with our business, is you like to deal with your clients one-on-one. You give that kind of personal aspect to it. So how does that work when you have a brokerage and yet are you a big corporate structure with all of these layers that people have to go through, but I think they deal more with you. How does that work for you?
Yeah. So one of the nice things about being an entrepreneur is that you get to do business with who you want, when you want, where you want, how you want, right? And, I've had my stint in the corporate world. I didn't like it. I didn't like all the layers of bureaucracy. I didn't like the internal competition. I thought it just got in the way with a lot of things. But coming from this sort of entrepreneurial background all my life, I like small business. I like growing with small business. And when you're at a point where you're not too small, where you worry about everything, like talking about wearing all the hats, right? You're just constantly worrying about everything, but you're bigger, a bigger entrepreneurial setup. Those are the people that I like to do business with, because they're not the ones that are choking the business. They realize, look, I need to delegate this task to someone who's experienced and knows what they're doing. I can't do it all. And that is roughly, people that earn more than $1 million in their business. And from a tenant size wise, and me, the way I spot them, are usually above 2,000 to 3,000 square feet of occupancy of space. These are bigger, entrepreneurial, small, but they're growing. And so I look at those as the ideal people that I like to work with, because they're entrepreneurial, but they don't have all the layers yet. So in those businesses, I tend to find the decision maker who's entrepreneurial, wants to move fast, wants to scale, doesn't want all that drag, just tell me how it is, tell me what I need to know, and let's go do it. As you get into the corporate side, there are many layers. You got the legal side, like I said, and you've got the marketing side, you've got the CEO, this whole C-suite, and everybody has to talk to everybody before making a decision. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating for them, and it's frustrating for me, because I like to move with speed, because speed is where you get those opportunities, right? It's time that kills deals, and all I have is time as a commodity, and it's so precious, and you don't want to waste it. So I gravitate towards this niche, and that would be what I call my avatar. People of a certain age, people of a certain profession, businesses of a certain size, where they're located. So I like to deal one-on-one. And what that allows me to do is, to be clear, we've got that speed because I'm dealing with me and you, Denise. You're the decision maker. I'm the decision maker. 2, there's less chance of misunderstanding. There's more transparency there, because I'm telling you, and you're giving me the feedback, and we're collaborating together, and we're moving a lot quicker. There's more accountability, right? So I'm accountable for the actions that I take, and you're accountable for the decisions that you make in directing me to go find certain solutions for you. So there's a lot going on there that I can achieve when I'm dealing with entrepreneurs and smaller businesses than the drag I would experience with larger corporations, right? And this is where I fit in, because I'll leave those big four conglomerate commercial real estate companies to handle these big corporate accounts, but I'm under the radar, and I'm not dealing with, newcomers or newbies. I'm dealing with experienced, pretty savvy, guerrilla marketing type entrepreneurs, but I'm not dealing with imbeciles either. These people are savvy, so I'm able to make that my niche as to who I serve, and I love the fact that I can get one-on-one, because it allows me to create deep relationships with these people. And I don't like to treat my business as a transactional business, if that makes sense. So I don't want to have an assignment, hey, Mel, go find me a building, and then that's it. I never talk to you again. I like the relationship part. I like fostering and nurturing those relationships. And then from there, we grow together. So I'm not profiting from you or that transaction or that assignment. I want to grow with you. And eventually that transcends into my investment side, where we're profiting together. So if I have an opportunity, I call you. Why? Because we have that relationship. Why? Because you're a business owner and I'm a business owner, and we can see things from the same lens. So it all kind of fits in together. I hope that makes sense.
The key thing in business is actually the relationships, because that's what keeps you going. That's what keeps your clients happy going. And, a little bit like you and I met because of real estate, but then again, sort of, I know some of your family. I know how many kids you have. Like, there's certain things I know about you because we develop those relationships. And that's what we like to develop as well with our clients. And it sounds exactly, this is what you're doing with your clients as well. Because the word I'm looking for is that personal experience that people look for, because they feel like they're being heard, they feel like they're being taken care of. And it's so important when you're dealing with people. Like you say, it's not transaction by transaction. There's a lot of businesses that are like that. That's not how we operate. And I can see that that's not how you operate either. So if you were to sum it up, what's sort of one of your real unfair advantage that you have over other brokerages?
When I deal with my customers, the advantage they have in dealing with me is that obviously my tenure, right? So I've been doing this for over 30 years. And as a result, I've been doing many types of real estate deals. So I have a wide range of experience. But often the problem becomes that they're not an expert as to what I do, right? So they need to bring me in as an expert, but they get to tap into my experience. They get to tap into my network. They have access to the deals and opportunities they couldn't source themselves, right? And by doing that, it saves them time, money, energy, and frustration. And as a result, they're able to do a lot more quicker than they would be able to do on their own. And their chances of success is much higher. So they plug into me as if I was their real estate department, even though I'm not officially on their payroll. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So they get access to things that they couldn't get because they don't have the experience. They don't have the track record and how to deal with things, or how to structure a deal, or how to become creative, or how to negotiate. Well, that's me in a package. They just plug into that. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't cost them anything from a brokerage side, because I get paid from the other side, whether it's a seller or a landlord. But they get to leverage all that by working with me. So, I have no conflicts of interest. The way I've chosen to do my business is that I'm usually a tenant representative or a buyer representative. The reason being is it takes a lot less time. I've never been one to just write reports. That entrepreneurial side of me doesn't like that. So I'd hate to always be on the defensive saying, hey, Denise, thanks for the listing. These are the reasons why we haven't filled your space or haven't sold your space. I talked to 300 people this month. I've sent out this many newsletters. I made these brochures land in these people's mailboxes. And these are the responses I got. It's like, man, that would just be a boring life. So I'd rather be, hey, Denise, today we're going to get in the car and I'm going to show you the 5 best options that are out there. And then based on that, we're going to shortlist the 2, and then we're going to take action. I mean, that to me is a lot more. So I represent you. I don't have any listings. there is no conflict of interest where I have to satisfy a landlord's, goals, and in contrast to your own. Like, I don't want to play both sides of it. So I rarely ever get into dual agency. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but I'm usually a rep. And on the entrepreneurial side, it's perfect where I fit in. I love it.
It's interesting you said dual representation as opposed to basically just a dual perspective, because you're dealing with the owners and sometimes you're dealing with basically the tenants. Now, again, that dual perspective, not representation, but that dual perspective, how does that help you enhance, let's say, when you're negotiating deals?
Right. So, you've always heard the term the win-win, right? So that comes about by performing a needs analysis. So I am going to find out what your needs are for your goals that you want to achieve, right? So your real estate initiatives are basically tied to your performance of your operations, right? Whatever your operations are needing, then you have to find the right facility. But in performing that needs analysis, I also got to understand all your whys, right? You've always heard about asking the questions until you actually dig down to the essential why they're doing what they're doing. And at the same time, on the other flip side of the table, you got someone on the other side of the table, they have their own reasons for doing what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And my job is to figure out, okay, what are your needs? What are their needs? Where do we have common ground? How do we navigate around some of the obstacles? And so being able to see it both from a tenant's perspective and a landlord's perspective, or a buyer and seller's perspective, is important, but it all comes down to asking the right questions. And the more questions you ask, the more clarity you get, right? It's a piece of a puzzle that you're trying to put together, and soon this puzzle is all done and you got this clear picture of what this puzzle represents. And so sometimes it's just finding or plugging in little pieces of the puzzle until you get that full picture. And hopefully you get a situation where it's clear that it's a win-win situation for both people. So you got to have both perspectives. You got to understand what the needs are on that side of the table as well as this side of the table by asking questions.
And again, asking questions, that's so important, right? You just don't assume things before moving on. the
right.
Questions become super important to kind of be able to drill down and get exactly what it is that the client is looking for, be it an owner, be it a tenant, doesn't matter. But now I know you mentor business owners, right? And real estate investors. So what are some of those common mistakes that you see some of these investors make?
Yeah, people rush in. Like, they rush in. I don't know if this is just human nature, but I've seen markets get to a froth, like we just sort of saw back in 21, 20, where everybody got into the market because the interest rates were low and everybody wanted to do a house flip, or everybody wanted to do a wholesale deal, or everybody wanted to do, a duplex or a conversion of a house. And so everybody rushes into things because they figure, okay, everyone else is doing, I got to get on the bandwagon. And as a result, people move too quickly without having a sense of what they're doing or command over what they're doing, because that does take time. And, that's one of the things that I try to tell people is, look, you've got time, money, and experience, those three things. Now, in order to get that experience, you're either going to pay for it in time or money, or you can save time by throwing money at someone who knows what they're doing, and they're going to speed up the process for you. But it's usually those three things. And to get all those three things is very difficult to have off the bat, right? So it's going to take some time to put those pieces of the puzzle together. And the best way to do that is to do it small, start small, educate yourself as to what it is that you want to do. Really get a good command of it. And that could take 6 to 12 months, right? You want to research, do your due diligence, understand what it is that you want to get into, be passionate about what it is, pick a lane, be really good at it, and then take the next 6 months to perfect it. And how do you do that? So now you're going to reach out to a mentor, you're going to join a community, you might take some courses out of school, and you really get good at it before you actually start taking, putting money on the line and testing yourself on it. And, the next step would then be, I would advise that you do it with a partner rather than doing it alone. Because again, you're going to be paying for time and money wasted because you really don't have the competency yet to do it. And so if anybody wanted to be, let's say, a real estate agent, then I would say the same thing. Get your licensing, do your education, find a brokerage where they do have a mentorship program that you would work under a successful team or a successful person, where they will share with you their systems and processes and guide you along as to what works and what doesn't work. And if you were just an investor in real estate, you wanted to do those things like buy a fourplex or a fiveplex or construct something, same thing goes. Join a community, find someone who is like-minded like you, someone who's been there, done those things before, and then hopefully either you can even volunteer to help and just watch and just be a sponge and learn, or you can partner up with them and have some skin in the game too, right? So before you do everything on your own, before you jump into things, walk, don't run, educate yourself, come in eyes wide open. Otherwise, there's a point where you just cross where it just becomes irresponsible for yourself and everybody else around you. Your family is going to have a stake in what you do, and you don't want to mess it up for them any more than you want to mess it up for yourself. So take it slow, get educated, find a mentor, and then from there you might want to scale up, right? And always at the end you want to reinvest in yourself. More education, get more credentials. You might want to join a society, an association, a board. You're going to grow and scale up, and with each time you do that, you gain more competency, and then with the competency you gain more confidence. I'm sure you've heard that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it's those little steps that are incremental that bring you to success. And, I just got to share this story with you, because when you talked about people jumping in and wanting to do things right away, I remember getting a call. This is probably about a decade ago. I got a call from someone who was looking for us as coaches. And one of the things that I found out, and I was asking him, what he was looking for, what were the issues he was dealing with. And his big thing was, he says, I've been putting offers in for 2 whole weeks. And he says, and nothing's happening. And I'm going, 2 whole weeks? And the thing is, I wanted to laugh, just like you just did right now. I wanted to laugh, but you don't, right? Because I thought, wow, like this is a brand new person. He was in a rush to try to buy something. And I stepped back and I said, 2 weeks, right? I said, that when I started in real estate, our very first property we ever bought took 5 months. He goes, 5 months. Yeah. And he hung up. That was it.
Gotta go, bye.
And like I said, it was just really funny how it happened, right? And but again, just as recent as in the last few months, somebody had approached us. They were maybe looking. They were 2 brothers, and one was really keen on buying something right away. Let's go. We've got money. We can do it. And I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're just brand new. And I said, get educated first. One brother wanted to, the other one did not. Well, guess what? They're now working separately. And the one has just finished a whole pile of education. He's come to us. He says, hey, can you recommend maybe a broker that could help us? Because this is where we're at now. And I said, fantastic. And we did. Slow and steady will get where you want, because you make rash decisions if you just jump in, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There is, so, slow and steady is great. That's what real estate is. It's not a sprint, right? We've heard that. Yeah. It's more of a marathon. You want to be, in the market. You don't want to time the market. You've heard all these sort of cliches, right? But there is a point when things get busy, there is a quickening, things speed up. So you saw that late in 2022, just before the interest rates went up. You saw, when you're in your negotiation, you saw your condition windows just collapse down to, you've got a week to remove all your conditions, do all your due diligence, do all your inspection. Otherwise, this is going to someone else. Or you've got 30 days. And I can't even get financing in 30 days. But things were happening so quickly that people were taking leaps of faith, especially those people that have done things before and they just want to keep rolling the dice. Well, guess what? Just like in a game of musical chairs, when that music stops and there's only so many chairs to land on, everybody else is sitting on their butt because they just missed the mark. And so you've got to temper that with rationality. Like, okay, look, if the opportunity isn't going to present itself where the math can justify things, then I'm not going to rush into it. Hey, there's a bus. I'll catch the next one. but I'm not going to go into this crowded bus where there's going to be all kinds of problems when I'm in there in that environment, right? So there is this sort of quickening, and you can forget that, hey, there's a lot more hype and froth here. I should just take a step back. Slow and steady wins the race. And this is, getting to the point of when been doing this for 30 years, I've been through a lot of economic cycles, right? So I've been there when I started my career just as Canada had that real estate bubble. This was coming out of like 89 when the stock market, the Black Monday that happened in 89. And then eventually that kind of rippled through the next few years where real estate in Canada really took a hit because it had a bubble. I've been through that. I've been through the oil crisis, been through bunch of different
financial crisis.
Right, the financial crisis. Hey, black swan events like COVID. So with each cycle, people always say, oh my God, this is the end. I'm out. I'm cashing out. And really, you've just got to be calm. And the more you go through these cycles, you realize, stay in it. Just temper all that.
Weather it.
You just got to be in it. And you just got to figure out how to manage your finances so that you can stay in it the long run. Like even now, people are suffering because they got caught in the exuberance of what was going on back in 20, 21, and 22, part of that. And so they're hurting right now. But those people that read the signs and knew that, hey, this is just a cycle. We'll get through this. And, with the cash that I've got now, I can actually go out and buy some distressed properties or some discounted properties. So those are the people that are in it for the long run. Those people that just follow the herd, they're going to get slaughtered, right? So it's a marathon, and you just got to take it nice and easy, one step at a time. And
what you said too is because sometimes the news really doesn't give you exactly what's happening. The news is basically to scare people or sensationalize something, but there is a behind the curtain. And one thing you mentioned a while ago about being educated and belonging to associations or groups or real estate investor groups. I mean, this is where you learn a lot of the stuff that is behind the headlines. And when you fully sort of understand what's behind the curtain, it really helps you to move forward. And again, that's slow and steady and not this panic because something has hit the news, right? I mean, that's so important, when we do that. And we experience it. Yeah, we do. So
hang on. The more communities that you can join, the more of a sounding board you will have. And, you'll become more rational in what you do, right? Because you're able to leverage other people's experiences and use that as a benchmark with your own, your own ideas or your own opportunities and say, hey, maybe now isn't such a good time to be in that particular local market, or maybe I've missed a boat. I thought this was a good market, but it's probably reaching more saturation than there is opportunity. But you do that when you talk to other people. And, being employed by myself, I don't have a big team because I like to move fast. But one of the drawbacks of that is that sometimes you have a doubt or, you need to talk to other people. And this is where it's important that you do have a network or community that you can draw from. And, you and I talk all the time. You, me, and Stuart, we talk about, hey, what's going on over here? What do you see over there? These are the experiences I had. Never do that. Stay away from this guy, whatever, right? So, but you need that because you can't get a clearer picture because we're all looking for certainty. And those people that are caught in that uncertainty will never move forward. But the more people that the clearer picture that you have and the more certainty you have to move forward and take action. And if I was to ask, if someone was to ask me, what would you do if you were to start over again? I'd say, well, I take a lot more action than I do about learning.
So we all say that, right? We all say that.
Oh man, because you regret it because you were too busy and hesitant about taking action, and you're constantly trying to learn. Well, maybe if I learn a little bit more, and you're going to be a forever student, but you got to take action. And the way to do that is to remove all that fear and have that confidence. And sometimes it's doing that with a person, a partner, someone who's done it before. And then once you get the hang of it, you can go out and do it your own. But yeah, it's taking action, always be networking, and always be educating. Never stop. Like I enjoy learning more now than I ever did when I was in school, more than I ever did when I went to university, because I get to choose the subject matter this time. And the subject matter falls into something that I'm really passionate about, which is real estate. And so the more I do that and take what I learn and actually implement it and put it into action, I get off on that. This is great. I can actually take a piece of dirt and create something of legacy that's going to last the test of time long after I'm gone. And that thing is going to be producing money. And it's also providing a solution, whether it's an office space for someone or a factory, or whether it's a home that people can live in forever. That stuff excites me. It's awesome.
Fear stops people, right? And one of our mottos is feel the fear and do it anyway. And it's something that there's a little book, right, called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. But I read it like decades and decades ago. But at that time, it was a book that I needed that helped me make a big decision. And from a personal point of view, that's what led to my divorce, basically. But I needed to get out of a situation at the time. So that helped me in that area. But I've carried that motto in just about everything that we do, which has allowed us to get where we even are today, right? But feel the fear and do it anyway. And I remember being at a real estate investor meeting in Toronto, as a matter of fact. And this person had come up to us and he was talking to us, and he had been a real estate investor, I think, for about 2 years and had never bought a property yet. Mm-hmm. And you could sense the fear that he had that it was going to be making a bad decision or something like that. And we talk about feel the fear and do it anyway. And I said, you know what? It is a scary decision sometimes when you're about to make that decision, because it is money involved and, it's something that can change your future. But all of that is a little scary. So what I told him, I said, you know what? Close your eyes and pretend you're standing on the edge of a cliff. Just close your eyes and just jump. And he's looking at me. And I said, then you open your eyes and you're probably going to find that all you did is you jumped over a little speed bump. And his face just like, really? Would you believe that he came back the next month and he had bought 2 properties?
Oh, that's great.
Like I thought, and 2 years of him just being scared of doing something. So whatever I said seemed to have made an impact, but it was going with that motto about feel the fear and do it anyway. Is just close your eyes and just do it.
It's all a matter of putting it into perspective, right? Look,
exactly.
80% of the things that we are concerned about, or things that we fear are going to happen, these outcomes never come to pass.
Exactly.
Right? Only until you've actually experienced life as long as I have, or you have, that you realize, don't sweat it. Like, don't take yourself that seriously.
But don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah. At the same time, I can tell you that it's fear that drives me, right? It's the constant paranoia of me being stuck in the same place forever that drives me forward. So that could probably be an unhealthy thing, I guess. It sounds like it would be unhealthy, but because I want to do more, and because I put myself in uncomfortable situations, and you do this too, right? You're trying new things, and it's fearful. Like you're doing things. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I'm just kind of go for it. But that's when you learn, and that's when you grow. And then you'll find that more often than not, you're going to succeed. Why? Because you drive. And if it's not the fear that's driving you forward, because you're moving away from whatever pain you're feeling, you don't want to be stuck in the past or stuck in where you are. You want to drive yourself forward. So sometimes that paranoia, I can tell you in my case, the competitive side of me wanting to get better and live to my full potential, it's the fear of just being stuck that drives me forward. It's that paranoia and that competitive side that wants me to progress and evolve. So yeah, feel the fear and do it anyway. Sure.
For sure. Now, let's look at this now. You are a commercial broker. So where do you see sort of the opportunities coming up in this commercial area? Sort of, where are some of those biggest opportunities coming in? Because you're coming in with over 30 years experience here.
Yeah.
For those that are new, let's say, coming on, where do you see the opportunities happening now?
Okay, so you're going to want to look at the big picture first. And then from the big picture, you're going to deduce on a micro level where the opportunities are. So here's a hack. Okay, so if you were to follow the baby boomer generation all throughout their history of being teenagers all the way to where they are now, if you were to predict what stage of life they were at and what their needs would be, you would have been a millionaire, maybe a billionaire, right? So everything from rock and roll, right, to the Beatles, to disco in the 70s, love and peace coming out of Vietnam or whatever it was back then, the advent of everybody going to the gym in the 80s, monster homes in the 80s as the baby boom generation got to a point where they're really earning big money, golf club memberships. If you just follow their consumption cycle, you can actually get ahead of it and figure out where things are going. And if you were to take that and look at it from a real estate industry point of view, you can almost figure out what they would need. And so that's a bit of a hack. And the reason I mention that is because we've got another go at this with the millennials, right? They're the next biggest cohort. What are they going to need? What were their influences growing up? What are their fears? What are their concerns? And what are their ambitions, and what are their realizations? Some of them now might not even think, I guess millennials will probably be at an age where they're about to own homes and about to work in a different way. And the way we use real estate has evolved so much. And it's about to take another change again with AI, right? So AI can do a lot of things. It can help you run an operation or run a property more efficiently than ever before. It can also help you find opportunities faster, quicker than ever before. So marrying these things together is a great opportunity if you're going to be an investor to figure out how I can implement AI into my strategy. So one way to do it is to get all these statistics that we were always crunching, and what's the vacancy here and the absorption rate there and the supply coming online here. Well, if we can get AI to sort of distill all that information down and throw it into Chat GPT and say, all right, here are the different locations that I'm considering. Here are the economic leading indicators for each one of these towns and cities and submarkets. Identify for me which ones have the greatest potential based on the lowest vacancy, the greatest population growth, or the migration patterns. Imagine where you can go with all this in a fraction of the time given AI, right? Yeah. So I think we're on one of the precipice of a whole new generation in how we do things, and marrying that with the way we've changed how we use real estate, going from, let's take a look at the office sector, right? Coming out of that Black Swan event, we are now, still in a hybrid mode, work from home to some extent. And now the way we use office space is totally different. It's all experiential. So, we've come from a place where you'd have the corner office that might have been 400, 600 square feet on the floor. It would be up there and it'd be big. And the guy had a shower and a bathroom in it because he was always working, to the average size of an office going 10 by 12, and all the modular furniture and everything was about that size. Then it got to a point where people were hoteling just a bank of desks. And if you're coming to work, sign in, you're going to be assigned a desk. You don't really have an office anymore. And so everything has changed, and it will keep evolving depending on how we live our life outside of the office and how we can implement the new technologies that are out there to actually gain more productivity too. So everything is evolving. Where is it going to go? Like, I take a look at industrial buildings where they were mainly factories back in the day, then turned to assembly factories, turned into warehouse and logistics for products that we consume, because now everybody's online shopping, right? So you got to store all this stuff. All right, great. We're consuming products. You got to store all these products. Then you buy it, realize, oh, this sweater doesn't fit, send it back. Well, where does that go? That goes into another warehouse. So now logistics industry took off. So is that going to keep going as, the baby boomer population gets older? Or maybe in pharmaceuticals, right? In medical and health and marrying technology with medical devices. So that med tech industry is going to blow. So what do they need? So it's a matter of just figuring out where the demographics are, where are things changing, how we're consuming real estate, and then getting ahead of it. So there's a lot of opportunity out there, and think about tokenization. Like you and I just attended, right? The futurization of things. Like, this is just people in the room trying to figure out where are things going to go. Yeah. And people can do this on their own, right? People can do this on their own and figure out where the opportunities are. It just takes a little bit of time and be creative with your thinking. But like I said, the hack has always been, okay, you take the strongest cohort, follow this cohort, everything that they're going to need, pretty much that baby boom generation, 1/3 of the whole population or whatever on earth, they're going to have a lot of influence in the way we use things and consume things and what's important to them. And as they get older, you can see that the medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry is just taken off, right? So that's all because of them too. Imagine the next cohort, just follow them along, because they're probably going to exhibit a lot of the same patterns that the baby boom generation did as well. So that's a bit of a hack, but if you can just distill it down to how it relates to real estate, you can almost guess where we're going. Now, technology is the one thing that we can never really figure out where will it go, because it's happening so quickly.
Moving so fast, yeah.
But because of that, because of all this chaos, there's opportunity, right?
Yeah. And what I like though, but it's just like with you having 30 years in the industry, is that you bring that knowledge, you bring the actionable items that you've had to work through and learn and everything else. So people can always reach out, and we'll go through that in a minute, but reach out to you, because these conversations are important for, especially for new people who are just starting, because they don't have that vast experience yet, right? So they need, and as you mentioned, sometimes it's just latching on to somebody who has that experience and to be able to work with them for a while so that they can learn, so they can take action, and then they can get that growth that they're looking for, right? So, you and I, when we get together, we always have so much to talk about and everything else. I love it. But you know what? I want to be able to just kind of finish off with a few little things that are maybe a little bit more personal rather than just business, right? So
yes.
Again, so little rapid fire type of things is just, do you have either a book, a podcast, a mentor, somebody that has had, or something that has had a lasting impact basically on how you approach life or business? What would that be?
Yeah, you know what? Lately, I thought you were going to ask me my favorite color or the favorite food that I eat. Being Italian, it's pizza for sure. But lately, I've been watching a lot of Patrick Bet David, so PBD podcast, and he's had a couple of books that he's written. Your next 5 moves for business and in life. So I've been doing a lot of that. I would probably encourage some of your viewers to check into that, because he's got a lot of good things to say. And coming from a business background, he's sort of like the, I won't say he is Alex Hormozy, because that's totally different. But he came from a guy that immigrated to the country in the U.S., started off in the gym industry, in the fitness industry, selling gym memberships. And then eventually he got into insurance. And now he's more of a role model and a mentor, starting businesses and just telling people, see beyond the veil of all this stuff that's being projected to us on TV or radio. Don't live by all the headlines, Be real, do some digging on your own, do your own research, educate yourself. And he's been pretty good. Like in terms of a mentor, I would have my kids watch him, and he tells you how to grow your business and expand in your own life on the personal level. So I think he's got a pretty good influence in terms of his content. I think it's pretty entertaining as well. And I think his channel is actually called Valuetainment, interestingly enough.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Now, let's think back to your younger self. If you could go back to that, what would be sort of one piece of advice you'd give yourself now?
Oh, man. Maybe this is a little too niche because it only probably applies to me. I grew up as an only child. And so it was very difficult for me to ask for help, because I was always on my own. I didn't have any brothers or sisters. And it's not like I was one that could hold a conversation on the telephone. I was very much an introvert. But I would say I say this to my kids all the time, don't be afraid to ask for help, because sometimes you don't ask for help because you don't want to look stupid, right? You don't want to embarrass yourself. You carry some shame. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want people to understand that I don't know what I'm doing. I might have the wrong answer. I might be seeing things, and I don't want that as a first impression when people get on me. And so you just refrain, but ask questions, ask for help. There's no shame in asking for help. Do that quicker, because the more you get to bond with other people, and if you can find those people that are willing to help, and there's a lot of people out there, including yourself, that want to help people, because we're beyond the stage of just, I want to start my career or make my career, or I want to make money. There's a lot of us that want to give back in our own way. And sometimes it's just a matter of taking people under our wing, especially when we know that they've got the same likes and passions that we do. It's like, oh man, do I got advice for you? So
Yeah.
yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help. Just reach out. And if you find it within yourself to just go to these events or communities where you can find the right people, you'll be so much further ahead than most people. Because if you're insular and you stay alone, it's a scary place, right? Because you find the whole world intimidating. But if you can do it with others, it's less scary.
And just as you mentioned, being in real estate, no matter what niche of real estate you're in, it is not a lone sport. And if it is, it becomes a very hard road.
Uphill all the way.
Yeah.
It's a grind. You know it. It's a grind.
Exactly. Now, the fun one here also is if you were to pick a favorite travel destination for a vacation, where would you go and why?
Okay, so I'm going to avoid the obvious, which is you go back to Italy because, that's my roots. But I really love the island of Aruba.
Oh,
And I don't want everybody to go there. Stay back. But it's a beautiful little island just off the coast of Venezuela. So it's below the hurricane belt. So I never have to worry about hurricanes, destroying my vacation. It's a pretty arid island. So imagine, I don't know, Nevada mixed in with, Florida together and a bit of Vegas, because it's a 19-mile wide island. What I like about it is that I don't have to worry about drinking the water or eating the food. They've got their own desalination plant. So they take the seawater, extract the salt, and you've got pure water, right? And they've got their own industry. So they've got an oil refinery on one end of the island. So they're in that. But also on the main part of the island, they've got a thriving hospitality and hotel and tourism industry as well. So everyone there is employed pretty much. So I don't have to worry about being jacked because some guy on the street who's homeless needs food or looking for drugs. It's not that kind of place. So I really like the island. It's not too big, so I can go from one end to the other end, like me going from Toronto to Mississauga or Hamilton, and I can see one end of the island within an hour span. And it's intimate, and people are happy because they're all employed, and sun, beach, constant breeze. Like, what more do you want?
I know, sun, sand, and sea, right?
Right.
And it's interesting enough because I did not know that about you, about Aruba, because we've been there, and I totally agree with everything that you've said. It is a beautiful place. So anyways, Mel, this has just been absolutely fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on to the show and sharing all of your expertise. And like I said, I just appreciate you. So
it'd be fun.
Yeah, it is. And so one last thing is, if people wanted to connect with you, please let our viewers know how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, the easiest way is just to go on my website, right, which is paramountrealestate.ca. I'm also on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. If you just follow the Paramount logo, you'll most likely get me underneath there. So Paramount is my company. I'm obviously the ambassador of that brand, owning that company. So you'll find Mel Giannone under the Paramount. But look for me on all those platforms. I'm going to try to do content like this too. I would love to do this with you and Stuart on my webinar when I get there. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be here just talking to you guys today.
So thank you once again, and we'll connect again soon. Thanks, Mel.
See ya.